Okay, so welcome. This is actually the 49th episode, which I was quite surprised about. I didn't realize, I know it had been a while, but I hadn't realized how many I'd done. So I'm kind of like, for me, that's a huge achievement to do 49 episodes of a podcast that's been evolving since the beginning. So welcome to this month's Quantum Human Revelation. Are you a high achiever ready to find a different way to approach work and life? A way that lights you up and recharges you rather than drains you? Are you curious on how you can uncover your potential and unique guidance to your great vision? So I'm realizing now that great vision is what will replace job titles in the future. So imagine, what would you do if you didn't have a job title? How would you describe what work you did or who you'd be serving? Now, each month, we look at different aspects of the metamorphosis journey from human to quantum human. And this is going to show us how we need to be for the future. And it's a future that's going to be hand in hand with technology, transhumanism, and artificial intelligence. So join me this month as we explore how to be triumphant as a grounded and practical visionary, able to channel your higher self and your immense soul wisdom into tangible action so that you can bring your great vision into reality. It can be hard to find the right action when you're ahead of your time, when you're working with your higher self, but that's a skill that can be learned. So do drop a hello in the chat to let me know you're there. So for those that don't know me, I'm Trudy Marie, and I share from my entrepreneurial experiences as a founder of a tech startup and with a degree in artificial intelligence and computing. And my other side is my white star spiritual side, who is a visionary futurist connected to divine intelligence. And I'm here to show those who are brave enough how to find a radically different way to make a difference in the world. Now, there are three core issues associated with this stage of metamorphosis. So I did say before that each of the podcasts is aligned to one of the stages of my metamorphosis process. And this metamorphosis stage is about taking inspired action. And as we come to the end of this level of, or this cycle this year, then this is the time when we have to pull everything together from all the previous lessons that we've done, the previous podcasts, and start thinking of how can we work with these now as a new toolkit. And how can we create an action plan? So think of this as climbing the mountain. Up until now, we've been doing all the groundwork, and now we're getting ready to climb the mountain. So as a high achiever, you've got three kind of issues that you're dealing with. You've become trapped in societal expectations of what success looks like. You do not trust or value things that come easy to you, despite saying that you want an easy life. And three, you approach life in a linear way that is not going to work anymore. But what if there's a more effortless way? How can you liberate yourself from the old ways of taking action in your life? So I'll come back to these in more detail. That's what today's episode is about. But right now, can you think of a goal, a dream, a project, a healing, a mindset shift that you want to achieve? And let's make that a goal or a part of your great vision. And then this is the mountain that we're going to climb during this episode. So I'm going to be using one part of my great vision, which is this podcasting journey that I've been on, as my mountain to discuss during this episode, as a comparison for you to get a feel for what this feels like. So as a high achiever, you really need now to strengthen your foundations, so your personal foundations of who you are, so you can fly higher and reach the heights that you're meant to be hanging out in. Because all your struggles so far have been because you've been being too small, playing the small version, your imposter version, and you've been in the wrong room. So it's really hard, like if you're a scientist, to try and get respect and acknowledgement and to be seen and heard if you're hanging out with kindergarten children. So I want you to think, true authentic essence plus your great vision equals an enlightened life path. So your true authentic essence plus your great vision is your enlightened life path. So they're kind of the ingredients that you need. Then we have the higher self plus the high achiever thinking, when together give you the quantum human. So that's a skill set effectively. And then if we take it one step further, if we take the quantum human potential and the enlightened life path, you end up with a spine-tingling impact on the world. Does that make sense? Because that's what this podcast has been growing into over the last 49 episodes. So you've got the true essence, the great vision, your enlightened life path. So whatever life path you're walking now, think of a better version of that, a narrative that's better. Your higher self and your high achiever mindset together make you the quantum human potential. And then when you put your enlightened life path with your quantum human potential, you get spine-tingling impact. Just checking everybody's joined me on Zoom. So hello, everybody on Zoom. Hello on YouTube too. Oh, I can see. I was going to say, why can I not see you? But you're all the way at the bottom. Hello, Instrument Aviator Accelerator. Hello. At least I got everything on the screen today. But if my eyes are moving from side to side, it's because that's where the comments are. So during this metamorphosis from human to quantum human, my great vision is to help teach high achievers how to work with their soul wisdom and their higher self, how to navigate imposter syndrome, self-doubt, perfectionism, people-pleasing, and procrastination, which are some of the challenges we have in either large quantities or small quantities, and to do it in innovative ways. So we're not trying to fix these things, we're trying to use them differently. Because this will bring feelings of certainty, clarity, grace, and presence. And that makes you feel more alive. And the more alive you feel, the easier it is to dance with life. And that allows you then to achieve absurdly great things that you feel called to do. And this turns into impactful service for your corner of the universe, big or small. So never underestimate the size of the thing that is going to be causing the biggest impact. Sometimes great things come in small packages. So one of the pieces of my great vision is this podcast. And another is my 12 masterclasses that we're running alongside each other. And that metamorphosis program, it wasn't really defined when I started it. I didn't know what either was going to become, because when White Star, my higher self, guided me to do them, there was no solid plan for me to see how they were going to evolve. But the key is I took action anyway. If White Star, my higher self, said, do this, then I did it. I didn't always know why. I felt sometimes my perfectionists were kicking and I think, I need to know what I'm going to be saying. And she would say, just do it anyway. Now, after facing your fears of doing something like this, like it's that genuine feeling of doing something before you're ready, jumping into an unknown space. When you get really comfortable in that space, you learn new lessons, you learn new ways to cope. And you might all think I look really calm and collected doing these. But there was a time where I wasn't, and I had to go through the lessons to really find my groove. And slowly that groove became my flow. It was the flow of just allowing White Star, my higher self, my knowledge as a high achiever to come together and just to see where it would come out, what it would come out like. So if you think of this as an artist, then you can think of just having handfuls of paint. You don't know what you're going to paint and you just throw the blobs down on the canvas and then move your hands to see what happens. Now, for an artist, that's an acceptable process to climb the mountain. For most of us high achievers, it's not so acceptable. And that's kind of what I want you all to tap into, is how can we make this normal, not just for your work, but for every part of your life. So applying it as the means for you to make decisions, to make which opportunities to choose. Because after you've done the imperfect action, that's the evidence trail that you needed. And with retrospect, if you look back at what you've done, that's how you really find out what you're here to do. Now, it sounds backwards, and it is. It is about doing and then discovering and then putting it together. And like I said, we've spoken many times about the spiral approach, which is part of this system. But when we can do that, we can be in a position that we can change and pivot more quickly. And at this time of great change, these are the skills we're going to need. So in a way, I have to, like at this point now, even at the 49th episode, this year, I think you heard me say that a couple of new bits of information came in. I had to detach from what I thought these were. I had to detach from what I thought they were meant to do and break it all apart again, add in these new ingredients, and then re-put it back together. And then based on how it went back together, I could say, is it still the same as what I thought it was before? And hopefully the answer is no, because that's the whole point. It's meant to be no. And if it's different, then it's like, wow, okay, so what have we got now? And often we get to a point in our projects and our goals where we think it's complete and there's one piece missing, and we can get so focused on fixing that one piece that we don't realize that really all the pieces are not right. So by breaking it apart and putting it together different, you might find you've got 3 or 4 pieces missing, or that it's built a completely different shape. And this is what it's like working with the higher self. It's not a linear process. So the ability to detach from what you're building and what you expect it to look like is a really important skill. And it is very much walking in the dark, one step at a time. And when you can do that, this is how you become open to new, expansive ways of being and acting. So you can imagine my higher self, White Star, has kind of taken me on this journey. And I'm not the same person as I was when I started the journey. So who do you think your higher self wants you to be? Now, for some of you, I've already introduced you to your higher selves, so maybe you can get some insights and just connect to your higher self. We've given our higher selves names just to make it easier to connect to them. And the higher self is evolving right now, and it is becoming more embodied. So there is a lot of changes. Sometimes there have been false higher selves coming in, so we have to be really careful navigating this landscape. But if you kind of tune into your higher self and just ask your higher self to speak, what does it want you to be? Does it want you to be bigger? Does it want you to be bolder? Does it want you to be seen in the world doing something radically different? So we got graceful and allowing and receiving more of life. That's what your higher self wants. That's nice, isn't it? But how many times do we ask ourselves that question? Because there's loads of books telling you how to deal with all your problems, with your perfectionism, with your personality. But there's not many books that help you really unleash your true essence and in a practical way. There could be a lot of esoteric books that talk about the concept, but the actual practicality of it is another beast altogether. So your higher self wants you to go and explore. But even then, you can ask more questions on that. Explore yourself, your inner landscape, explore your great vision, explore the country. So we can keep going and asking questions of our higher self to get questions beyond what our logical mind thinks we should be doing. So what we can do with our higher self is we can write the story of who you could become. And that's the trick to everything we're doing in this metamorphosis process, is breaking away the old so that you can write a new story of who you could be. Now, if you don't know what that is at the moment, then at the highest level, you are here to be an agent of the heart and soul of the world, to create solutions we need in this world. And this is because we're at an age of technology and transhumanism, which is going to cause more delusions and disconnect. So the term I've used to describe these people are quantum human, because I wanted something that didn't relate to anything else. And then my great vision, the work, the action I take, is empowering entrepreneurs and change makers to unlock their authentic quantum human potential, which is multifaceted, take the reins of their wildest life and start co-creating a new authentic version of themselves. And that spine-tingling great vision. which effectively is an up-leveled sole purpose and replacing job titles. And this naturally aligns with like your natural abilities and your hobbies and your talents in a way that allows you to flow more easily and gracefully through life. So as I allowed my true essence to become seen and integrated more of my higher self, it allowed me to finally break down the barriers of my business self, which was only one box, my spiritual self in another box, my higher self, which was another box, and me as a dancer. And I would switch between these different versions of who I was, but I couldn't see initially how they all fitted together and how they kind of all were just different aspects, and you could use each of them as a lens to look on the problem from different perspectives. And when I did that, when I finally decided that I could allow that to happen, then I found that I could offer a more practical approach to spirituality that's more suitable for entrepreneurial high achievers and deep thinkers. But if I hadn't done that work first, I'd never got to that point. Yeah. Just say, love that. But I'm just trying to make sure everybody understands there's like the who you are with your limitations and the great vision as two different things. And we have to repair who you are, and then that helps the great vision reveal. And we spoke a lot more about that last episode because that was about expanding consciousness and things. So at this stage of metamorphosis, we're really at the final chapter of this cycle. And we need to always understand when I say final chapter, that it's not the end. This journey has no fixed destination. It's an evolution, forever growing incrementally. It's not like you can tick things off and say, done that, done that, done this, don't need to do anymore. It's a slow incremental. You just one day wake up and think, oh, I feel a lot different today. And you might not knowingly recognize all the individual steps that took, which is why the podcast was so interesting, because it wasn't always an easy thing to say, do this and this will happen. It was more of a whole bunch of tiny little nuts and bolts being adjusted so that when they all clicked into place, this new version of you could awaken. So if that resonates with you, then I always ask at the beginning of these sessions to get ready, to be open to infinite possibilities, and to allow that this work that you're doing tonight isn't just the listening and absorbing, it's going to cause ripples. And you don't need to know what those ripples are. You just have to intend that they happen in your highest good. You can grab your oracle cards, your journal, any books that call to you, anything you want to work with tonight that you can think can inspire you. And just get a pen and a blank sheet of paper, because I want you to write down what your goal is for today's session. And what we're going to try and do is, as I'm talking and as I'm sharing, then you may get insights, flashes of light, like we spoke about last time, regarding what action you can take on your great vision. And do feel free to share them in the comments if you want some feedback. Because it's surprising how many times our feedback actually helps inspire somebody else. Okay, does that all make sense? We all with that? So as always, I'd say this is just like the highlight version of what I do in my self-development strategy of metamorphosis. And if you're ever interested in joining that, because the new cycle starts in September, then let me know by email, whitestarsoulguidance@gmail.com, and we can have a chat to make sure it's right for you. So the format of this session is, in the first part, we talk about the summary and the topic. So think of this as, we know that inspired action is the area that we're working on. There'll be each year when I do this, there's a slightly different theme. And when we put those together, it just gives us a different lens to look at this topic on. Part 2, we're going to look at what past skills you'll need to draw on and what we're aiming to achieve by the end of this month. So what are we going to embody? And then part 3, I'll share the challenges we need to work on and the strength we can tap into, because these are two sides of the same coin. And then part 4, we'll work on the advice and the next steps, and I'll share how you can work with me. Now, if you apply what I share tonight, you can create change in your life. So don't think of this as a passive experience. So I hope you've all made peace with change, because I should have a warning on my wrapper saying, causes change. So take a nice deep breath. Let's set an intention to bring you into the present. And we utilize the instinct of God, which is a technique that came out of one of our downloads recently. So we tap along the collarbone here. And as we tap, we take a deep breath in. And if you can hum on the way out and create a vibration through your body, so you go, and take the hum down deep into your chest, then this activates the God codes in your DNA. And the God codes allow you to just become light, like a buttercup knows how to grow. It doesn't ask or go on courses or find self-discovery aspects. It just knows. And that's what we're trying to tap into right now, because there's been a lot of updates energetically to support us do this. Yeah, Marta's already put her great vision out, so that's great. I'm going to come to that in a moment. Anybody else want to put their great vision into the comments? Ready? So last month, we were exploring how to use the world to expand your consciousness, to break through the illusions of fear into divine generosity. So we explored how consciousness, or our consciousness state, impacts your big why and your great vision. And from that, the next step then is to explore how to use that consciousness to take action and feel triumphant regardless of the outcome. Because triumph is not associated with getting what you want or expect. There are bigger triumphs that you cannot imagine to achieve as you climb this mountain. And we need to reimagine our path to success and find the right guide, which is our higher self, to climb this mountain. So we're going to tune into the questions that I ask at the beginning of every session. So just allow yourself to allow the first number to come into your mind. Try not to think too much about it. And when you put your answers in the comments, put the number next to them so we can come back and look at them later. So based on your current great vision goal, and I haven't seen any coming through on YouTube, but I've got 2 here on Zoom with me. So we've got one great vision is to become an architecture fairy that flows to one historic building to another and makes unexpected connections so buildings can feel happier. So that's geomancer, and it's about the ley lines of the land and helping the earth be a different frequency to support us as humans. And the other one is being a poet of the human condition from a financial lens. So that's cool as well. So you can see how these are not job titles. These are visions. I can only call them visions, great visions and that. And whilst what's been written here seems quite simplistic, the depth behind them is more profound than sometimes we can find the words for. It's quite an interesting journey trying to find the words that accurately reflect the power of what's being done. So based on your current great vision, the first question is, are your current actions effortless and soul aligned? So are your current actions on this great vision effortless and soul aligned, 1 to 100? So number 1, are my current actions effortless and soul aligned, 1 to 100? So try and remember, put the number in next to the answers because we've got a few questions. Number 2, do I recognize the right opportunities for this great vision to be a success? Do I recognize the right opportunities that will make this great vision a success? This is number 2, 1 to 100. And again, we're trying to avoid the mind. We're trying to really tap into the higher self, which probably knows more than you think it knows. Because whenever we work with a soul vision, it's not about creating it, it's about remembering it and taking away all the veils to unveil it. So do I recognize the right opportunities that I need to make my soul vision a success? 1 to 100. Number 3, can I take imperfect action on my great vision? 1 to 100. So can I take imperfect action? 1 to 100. That's number 3. So remember, we're doing all of this in the context of the great vision that you've all named. That's what you're trying to achieve at the moment. Can I take imperfect action to achieve my great vision? And then finally, question number 4. Is my approach to life being blocked by my survival skills? 1 to 100. So is my approach to life being blocked by my survival skills? 1 to 100. That got a big number for some people. Oh, that's not unexpected. We've often carried so much trauma, and as high achievers, we intellectualize it, so we don't really work on it. So it's not surprising. So is my approach to life? Yeah, you got it. Cool. So we've got your answers there. We'll check back in with those questions once we've finished going through tonight and see if they've changed a little bit. So there is always an energetic part to my work. That's the spiritual part. So as well as the business part, we have the quantum ingredients that we're working with. And you might not always believe that these things exist, but physically our bodies are feeling all of the solar flares that are hitting us right now. It's affecting the magnetic fields of the earth, it's impacting our bodies, it's impacting our nervous system. And I think I'm seeing more science now backing this up, but it's been slow coming. But for me, the solar flares are what are pushing your DNA to awaken, to allow you to go through a metamorphosis process, which is a radical reimagination of who you are, like a structurally different being, like caterpillar to butterfly. We've also got the Sirius Gateway, which is open now as well. And I like to think of the Sirius Gateway as spiritual school. So if the DNA activation is more of a physical evolution, helping our bodies be prepared for the next phase of humanity, then the Sirius Gateway is about a transfiguration. It's our spiritual consciousness that's being transformed. And we have from the 7-7, but although the dates have all shifted, so I wouldn't go by dates, I'd use your higher self to guide you. But from 7-7 through to about the 15th of August is this Sirius period, ending in the Lion Gateway when Leo then gets involved in the kind of alignment of the stars. But this time of year is quite potent for a lot of spiritual activity. But again, use your discernment to find out which ones are in your highest good and which date to do them on. So you can think of this time of year is a good time to get new insights, like spiritually enhanced futuristic ideas of how you can climb your mountain. So do not ignore any downloads or ideas or thoughts that you might be getting right now, or accidents or coincidences in your life, because ignoring them just because you don't understand them is going to leave you lagging behind. So try and learn how to work with this symbology and how to turn it into action is part of what the Capricorn lessons are about. So last month we spoke about how we can tap into some of that creativity to analogical thinking and the overview effect and all these other sort of quantum physics approaches to help us translate these downloads and then improve our great vision. So for example, already this month, I've been shown more about the great vision. When White Star told me in 2021, I was going to help people connect to their great vision. I was like, why great vision? Why not soul purpose or soul mission? Why is this got to be great vision? And I think it was because the words soul purpose already had a meaning, and I would have been like putting the pieces together wrongly if I was working with that. Whereas with great vision, it made me ask more questions, explore, see how I could put things together differently. But now I see that if there are no job titles in the future, then what term can we replace job title with? And a great vision fits really well. Can you imagine, instead of going up to people and saying, what's your job title? What do you do for a living? Instead, we all went up and said, what's your great vision? How does that feel? Doesn't it feel more kind of fun and expansive to ask people that? So feel free to start asking people this, by the way. Plant the seeds. And this just shows that White Star was already aware what was coming, because at that time AI hadn't taken off quite the way it had. There was always a risk that AI would come at some point. Even back in the 80s when I was studying AI, we were preparing for job losses and helping people overcome the movement of their work into different domains. But I don't think we could kind of see, or at least weren't anticipating that in the last couple of years that AI would come in with such a big bang to take over. So White Star saw that in our emerging future, that work transcends rigid job descriptions. And even though she told me this, and there was a video called Reimagining Your Future of Work, I hadn't made the connection. So in that video, I talk about us imagining a world where your daily contribution is not defined by your job title, but it's defined by your energy, your passion, and your holistic life purpose. And you can picture it as professionals flowing between roles, whether it be in a single day throughout the week. They may be teaching in the morning. They could be consulting in the afternoon and nurturing children in the evening. That's the kind of fluidity and the job independence that the Great Vision allows us to imagine. And what this means is our work becomes dynamic. It becomes a living ecosystem where personal growth and community intersect seamlessly. So it's not like I'm going to work, I'm now looking after the family. It's all part of our human ability to weave these into the work that we do every day. Now, on one hand, that's quite a simple definition of what the future of work could look like. I even kind of went as far as saying, you wake up with a headache, but you don't go off sick. Maybe you go and do some gardening, because gardening's good for headaches and the community needs food. So it's that kind of thinking that allowed it to be more flexible. But it really does flip the script on work-life balance. So working from home over the last few years didn't kind of work. But if we made it into this, I think it could work. Now, yes, there's issues with money and how you get paid for this, but equally, if AI takes over all our jobs and robots take our work, how are we going to make money anyway? So we have to reconsider the financial implications of automation. And I think it was Bill Gates, but don't quote me on this, and I can't tell if it was true or not. But I like the concept of it, which is why I'm sharing it, not because I think it's true. But they said that if they were investing in robots, then their return on investment per unit, because they see us as units, how much work or how much money can you return based on how much they pay you? The same for robots. Based on how much return of investment they get on robots, because hopefully the fixing, they don't break too often, although we all know technology too well to think of that. But if they don't break so often and they don't have to spend so much money on them, then they should be making businesses a lot more money. Then should that business be feeding some of that profit into some sort of universal income system where every human gets fed and a basic income from that? So that's the kind of, that's the kind of thinking we need, and taking action to bring some of this unusual futuristic thinking into reality is what we're talking about tonight. So what does that sound like to you? Does that kind of like sound something like you'd like to experience? Yeah, does that give you a feeling? Because it's important that we get the feeling of what a great vision is, not necessarily exactly what it is, because it's unique to each of us. And that's why in my work, I have to work with each person individually to unleash this. I have an infrastructure for the breaking down the jail cells, but I have no clue what's going to come out the other end. That's for us to work together with to to understand and to see. So that's the Great Vision download that I've just had from the Sirius Gateway opening up. So have any of you guys had any downloads? Have you noticed any like new sparks of intelligence coming in that you thought were just a clever thought, and you kind of dreamt about it and thought, oh, wouldn't it be good if we did this? And then you parked it and forgot about it and went back to your everyday. Then start writing them down in your journal now. Mm. So other people are starting to get some too. I think this whole year has been amazing for downloads on this. It's kind of like 2025 really feels like if I've been in the cocoon for the last 5 years and my body's been upgrading, then I feel like I'm starting to come out the other side. Now, some people might be just going in the cocoon. I don't know if everyone would have a 5-year process, but I guess it depends on how big your great vision is and how much nourishment your body needs to be able to attain it. But there's definitely, we've definitely crossed some sort of line, and we're passing over that line now. So yes, we got yes from everybody on Zoom. Got a new idea on a different modality regarding work. Yeah, that's what we're looking for, particularly at the moment. It could be a new spiritual insight, a new consciousness shift, or a new idea. So physical symptoms that we're experiencing, people are still feeling brain fog. But remember, I've said this again once I start again, really bad brain fog. Brain fog is kind of part of the evolution to your great vision because it's encouraging you to have to rely on your heart and soul wisdom because your brain isn't working as optimally as it could. So it's actually you can call it a bad symptom, but actually it's a necessary symptom to encourage you into your heart intelligence. Then we have the increase of ADHD diagnosis. Well, ADHD, from what I've been shown from White Star, is how our brain is rewiring to allow us to expand our consciousness to access all this new wisdom that's coming in. We've got overactive nervous systems, but our nervous system is, or I should say, our nervous system controls how much of our soul comes into our body. And if our nervous system is in fight or flight, then our soul can't come in. So we're kind of being gently stretched. Our nervous systems are being kind of getting used to bigger, stronger, more empowered energies that the personality, which is your bodyguard, can be quite afraid of. So as new versions of you, more bolder versions of you come in, your nervous system's going to react. And then we have to go through processes to calm the nervous system down and then allow the next amount of light in. And also, going bigger is scary, just doing something out of the normal, out of your comfort zone is generally scary, especially if you had some past experiences where it didn't go so well. We also got some digestion issues, and those are represented by when we absorb consciousness, it's the same as digesting food. So if you've got any digestion issues, then you might be struggling to download or to integrate or to understand or assimilate or use the knowledge that's currently coming in. We've got an increase of empathic reactions, and this is helping us strengthen our energetic boundaries so that we can become more independent and not knocked about so much by other people's energies. We might have emotional discomfort and anxiety, and this is because our personality is kind of fighting as the bodyguard. The higher self's coming in and saying, yep, we're going to do this new thing, and the personality is going, no, must keep small, must keep safe, don't let this happen. And that's going to cause emotional outbreaks and emotional flows to come up, good and bad, maybe, but we need to be able to monitor and to regulate our emotions better. So basically, your personality wants you to stay as your imposter self. It kind of likes that little version of you because it thinks you're safe hidden away. But unfortunately, your higher self has bigger plans and it wants you to go bigger. But remember, this is all baby steps. We're not meant to jump completely forward until we're ready. We can do the preparation, help our bodies become more comfortable, and just take in what we're ready to take in, because we still all have to live life at the same time. And we can just do it one sort of flare at a time, or even as each timeline shifts, deal with it one at a time. But it's not so much about knowing exactly what the timeline shift's doing anymore. It's more about reflecting into your body and noticing what your body's doing. If you can support your body and using the instinct of God to help it align with what's coming in, you'll get better results than listening to loads of ascension readings and futuristic information on the timelines that are shifting. They are shifting. You don't need to ask anybody. It is shifting and it's not going to stop. There are new spiritual ideas coming in. It's not going to stop. The higher self is changing. The soul is changing. The 3D is 5D, is 12D already. This is just normal now. And I've seen so many messages. At first, I was sharing these as well, but at first it was new, but now it's just the normal. So don't kind of go hanging your hat off those kind of readings. Just use your body, look into your body and see what your body needs. If you can help and support your body, you will naturally integrate the energies that are coming in. But try not to do like too much too quickly, because you can burn yourself out doing this. Allow it to go with divine timing. There is no rush. This is not a race. Okay. So the theme and the topic, this is part 1. The theme is time to let go and surrender, but this does not mean give up. So how do you let go and surrender, but don't give up? How can you continue with inspired, imperfect action until the impossible happens? That's your higher self question for this month. How can you continue with inspired, imperfect action until the impossible happens, which we talk about as your rare success, your kingdom's work, your great vision, the life that you dream about? So at this point of metamorphosis, this is the journey up the mountain from external validation to internal revelations. This is why it's called Quantum Human Revelations, because these are things you already have inside you. We're just trying to awaken them so you remember them too. To succeed, you have to break away from linear planning and progressive growth. Like, am I better tomorrow than I was today? Tomorrow you might feel worse. Doesn't mean you're not progressing. We've got to break away these old ways of measuring success. Instead, you need to detach over and over again. So maybe the measurement is, how many times have I broken myself apart today? And then how many times you put it all back together again? Because if your external structures of expectations are too fixed, you're not going to be able to keep growing and keep going up this mountain. They'll be too small. It'll feel, this mountain climb is going to feel a bit like 1 step forward, 2 back, and then suddenly 10 steps forward. So if you look at the step 2 and think, oh, I'm right back where I started, because I've gone one back, 1 forward, you then jump 20 steps forward and you go, oh, how did that happen? So think of this like snakes and ladders, when you hit a ladder and how you shoot up the board. And then when you go back to your old thinking, that's a snake taking you back to your old paradigm, your old narrative, where you have to start and come through the lesson again. Yeah, I think somebody said, thanks, needs to hear that. Not linear, tomorrow, not necessarily feeling like I've progressed. Yeah, it's like time is weird right now. And I think that's just part of ascension, just accepting the fact that it does not work like it used to work. And we just got, again, it's all about accepting the new normal. So we all have to, as quantum humans, get really comfortable with this new approach. Because time is not only speeding up, like I'm sure I'm not alone in thinking, where have the days go? We're in July, it's going to be Christmas before we know it. But it's also the fact that with AI, things are going to change super quick, and direction will change, information will appear that will cause advancements in things, which will bring new technology to the forefront. This is the age of Aquarius. This is what's meant to happen. And if you're not ready to break apart and detach, you're going to be left behind. So in the old days, when we had a job for life, if you were believing that job was for life and not preparing for what then came as more of a fluid marketplace, then you would have been finding it hard to get jobs. So, it's that kind of preparation breaking apart. And you've got to also believe that you're not just putting things back together in a right way. You don't know what the right way is, because you might not create the same thing based on what your higher self gives you. And if you think about it, that works really well with the shifting landscape, because as the terrain is shifting, so say, I don't know if this analogy works, but we can try it. So say you're like happy on your bicycle and you think your bicycle is going to be here forever in the Victorian age. Then the motor car comes along and you don't have a motor car, you're still on a bike. Then obviously it becomes more perilous to be on the roads because of the cars. So you now have to kind of give up on the bicycle as the most advanced technological way to move around, and you maybe jump over the car or the car, yeah, and you go straight to maybe a plane. Yeah. Things keep changing. You know, you've got to keep breaking the structure apart and putting it back together again if you want to keep moving with the times. It's just that in the past, you might only have to do that maybe in the last 50 years once in your lifetime. Now it's going to be almost every year, if not every month. So the key is, how do you feel triumphant when everything keeps falling apart and moving, like moving blocks? You know, how do you keep that triumphant feeling? Because we've been programmed to go linear, education, school, job, career ladder. You know, that's how our brains have been programmed. And the key is to keep that triumphant feeling even when you feel lost or unsure. So that's kind of backwards, isn't it? Saying you can only stay triumphant and not worry about the external validation you need to feel triumphant. Somebody said parkour. Yeah, life is very much like parkour right now. That's a good analogy. So the second issue with this is that when life is moving so rapidly, how do you keep moving forward? And I've got something in my eye now, so I'm not crying. Well, not yet anyway. So you have to find new ways to motivate yourself to keep going forward. So you can think of your great vision like an enigma. And like all puzzle games, there might be several different ways to solve it. And as you learn the different ways to solve it, you learn more about the puzzle. And maybe eventually you solve the problem, maybe you don't, maybe you find another puzzle to solve, but it's not a fixed, it's more the process that's important than the solving. So how can you create an inner conviction, not will or force, and not motivation, because they're external and they don't have enough steam to get you up this mountain. So how do you find the inner conviction to keep you going, to keep you walking on up that mountain, past the criticism, past the fatigue, past the fear? What do you think that is? What is your inner conviction? Yeah, connecting to your great big vision. Because when you know you've got a vision that's going to impact the world, you're more likely to want to make it happen. You know, that's what drives me. I have ME and chronic fatigue. I could just stay in bed and deal with my symptoms, but instead I'm here because this vision is so strong. It feels really important and it feels that it needs to be shared. So I make that happen within, I'm not like making myself sick. I'm doing it within my physical abilities, but still it gives me the conviction to keep going forward. And when you do find that inner conviction, you become soul aligned, which will make you magnetic. And when you're magnetic, what you're pursuing becomes pursuing you too. And the narrative we want to really feel deep into ourselves is your higher self is conspiring for your success, hand in hand with the universe. Jenny's joined us. Hey, Jenny. Jenny's just climbed her mountain. She gave birth to a baby girl on the weekend. So that was her great vision that she was aiming for. And as we know, once you reach the top of the mountain, there's just another mountain. So she's learning now the next phase of her great vision. So as quantum humans, we're here to model a new way of being. And as I said, I've identified, that's my cat, we've identified 12 superstructures that we need to go through to help us climb this whole metamorphosis process. And this month, we're focusing on how to turn our great vision into action, and specifically imperfect action. So if you take a moment to close your eyes now and just visualize You're standing at the base of a mountain that represents the great vision you've written down in your notes. Take a deep breath, exhale. Notice how your body's feeling. You are preparing with disciplined determination to climb the mountain. Again, take a deep breath, bring your awareness into your body and notice how it's feeling about this thought. Climbing this mountain will include respecting the divine plan of the universe and the wisdom of those who have come before you. Take a deep breath in and just notice how your body's feeling. Now, in this place that you're standing at the bottom of the mountain, you're actually standing in the valley of conformity. Now, this is a great place to hang out and hide, but tune into your body and notice what it's feeling. Maybe you notice your soul is stirring. It's yearning for something more than the prescribed path of survival and societal expectations. A whisper from within calls you to climb. Deep inside you, you know this is not a journey of conquest, but of alignment and enlightenment. So of alignment and enlightenment. You start the climb. Each step sheds the layers of inherited limitations, lightening the baggage you carry, revealing your true sovereign nature. Some days you're the mountain goat, pushing through with raw determination. Other days, the sea goat, learning to flow with the divine plan. Other days, you're the unicorn, effortlessly and easily attaining all your goals and expanding your consciousness into almost a godlike ability. The mountain teaches you that ambition is not about achieving, but about becoming. Take a deep breath in, scan your body and notice how that feels. Childhood wounds and societal pressures become your teachers. Your challenges reveal new skills that help you climb. You learn that your worth is not found in status, titles, or career ladders, but in your willingness to be authentically you, to let your true essence shine. Take a deep breath in. Notice how that feels in your body. At the summit, you meet your divine self, your God consciousness. It knows you can make a difference if you are willing to embrace your true essence. Not just as an intellectually distant ideal, but as a living part of you. Leadership becomes about illumination, not control. Your very presence becomes a transmission of possibility. But your true conviction radiates when you decide, rather than staying at the top of the mountain in this blissful state, you decide your great vision needs you to start the descent. To return not as the conqueror, but as the messenger. Your legacy will live in the other quantum humans you inspire, in the paths you illuminate. This is the journey from external validation to internal revelation. Take a deep breath in. How does that feel in your body? You see, the goal is to move from doing to being, from surviving to thriving. You realize you are the mountain. You are the climber. You are the wisdom. Take a deep breath in. Notice how that feels. And make any notes you need to make in your journal. So that's just a small visualization of what it means to take this journey of action. Now, the key is not to let AI take that away from you. If you use AI as a tool, all good. But if you use it as a guru or an expert, then it will take away your sovereignty. The God you need to find and connect with is done through your higher self, not through AI. So here are a couple of things I wanted to share from this month's masterclass. So as a high achiever, we spoke about being trapped by societal expectations of what success looks like, either from parental expectations or finding yourself in a job based on your education, and how your actions might be governed by the lens through which you see the world. So we need to learn how to recalibrate that lens and to start visualizing a different set of success parameters. And you do that through journaling. We need to detach from your life and rebuild. We need to contemplate that work might not be only the way we make money, but it might have another purpose. It might be how we're meant to express our soul. And that allows your expansive higher self to get involved in helping you find what that could look like. We're moving out of the knowledge economy. You can no longer sell what you know. AI has that one sorted. So instead, you have to start to learn how to innovate with your higher self, working in the unknown, being ahead of your time. But the thing is, as you take imperfect action, even if you don't know what you're doing, you just feel a calling to climb the mountain, you're unsettled by where you're at, As you take each of these imperfect actions, you'll discover a clue that will help you see the path more clearly. And you'll learn new skills, natural and invisible skills that you didn't even know you had, that will help you evolve. So that's one bit of advice that we had from this month's masterclass. The second one we had was that you do not trust or value things that come easy, and you end up making things harder for yourself. Now, there is another version of that, which you might get excited by the problem-solving process, but not completion. And just like with stress, we often don't realize the state we're in because it's our normal. So you've become so used to living life as a struggle that you no longer notice how hard you are making things. You've been carrying this heavy weight and stress for so long, it's normal. In fact, you'll know if this is true because doing nothing is stressful. Whilst you may have refined your survival skills in a way that it makes them feel critical to how you operate intelligently, they're actually slowing you down. So how do we analyze what we have been doing and decide if they're really serving us or if they are our survival skills? How can you set yourself free from your survival skills? So we use body testing a lot to help us tune into the truth, the higher self truth, beyond the mind, beyond the personality. But for those just listening now, you can let your body tip forward for a yes and back for a no, and just allow your body to respond to these questions. Because this is a really great way of finding out what survival techniques you've been using that you might have just accepted as part of who you are. So let's take the survival skill of self-doubt. So self-doubt is questioning decisions and capabilities, and you do that as a way to protect yourself against potential failure. So really, self-doubt is a fear of failure, looking foolish, or avoiding situations you might feel unsafe in, even though technically there is no physical threat. So how many of you suffer from self-doubt? So how many of you suffer from self-doubt? Are you body testing there? Now, don't forget, we're asking this question in the context of your great vision. So whatever you said your great vision was, how much self-doubt do you have in that area of life? So for you, Nee, how much self-doubt do you have? Yeah. Who said, not me, but then how much doubt do you have about becoming a poet of the human condition with a financial edge? Lots of doubt. Yeah. It's very sneaky how these things kind of get programmed into our personality to hold us back. The thing is, when something's unconscious, you don't get to see it. You know, you need someone to help you bring it into your conscious vision to be able to deal with it. Now, the problem is if you do have self-doubt, then the frustration is you get decision fatigue from constantly second guessing yourself. You miss opportunities because you hesitate, and you get physically drained from the internal arguments that you have no energy left for your great vision. So can you see how that might hold back your great vision from becoming a reality? So what can we do instead? Well, if we can connect to our higher self, we can access decision sovereignty. And in that situation, choices flow from an inner guidance rather than external validation. It's actually much easier to make decisions. And I know as soon as I teach people how to do body testing, they make many more decisions than they ever used to make, and much more quickly. And even more, they feel happy with the decision and the outcome without fear of missing out and without thinking that they need to change and see what they did wrong. It's a more of an embodied decision. So just because you struggle to get it doesn't make it more secure, because sometimes we think that the more hard work we apply, therefore the more we deserve it, or the more it's going to stay in our realm of possessions because we worked hard to get it. Unfortunately, it only means that you're more likely to cling to it, and it becomes a driver in how you take action thereafter. Maybe you even worry that once you complete something, then it's like, what do I do next? You know, this is like the retirement issue when people retire from work. It's like, what do I do? I don't know who I am. What should I do? Or you complete something and then you fear that, how do I keep that now? So if you made $1 million, then you'd be worrying about, how do I keep $1 million? How do I not lose it? Yeah. And this is kind of the human condition, is that we're always programmed to doubt ourselves. So if you had a real true sense of who you were, then you would understand that easy come, easy go, easy come again. Because if you created it in the first place, that meant you had all the tools you needed. If it does go for whatever reason, then it's easy to make it back again. That is a higher self guiding consciousness. That you can just attract effortlessly what you need when you need it without the need for hoarding. And this we've talked about this in the money kind of camp before. You know, imagine if we didn't have bank accounts and we just got the money as we needed it when we needed it. So there was more money to go around, so less poverty. Yeah. But basically, when you can tune into this consciousness of easy come, easy go, easy come again, your actions become liberated. You're more willing to take risks. You're more willing to make decisions you might not have before, take opportunities. But, you know, remember, the higher self is there to help guide us to the better ones. It's not like you're just free falling or hoping for the best. You're still being guided. Welcome to easy decisions. Yes. So that's the theme. So any questions on that? So this is just the highlights. We do a lot more detail in the actual workshop. And then there's a whole bunch of tools that we apply to it as well to help anchor in some of these concepts. So I'll just recap the theme for you then. So to climb the mountain that is your great vision, you need to detach and reattach often. You need to be ready to pivot when needed and ready to take imperfect action to find the clues. You also need to connect to your higher self to guide you. And triumph is not associated with getting what you want or expect. There are bigger triumphs to achieve as we climb the mountain of our great vision. We just need to reimagine our path to success and become a unicorn free of anything resembling survival consciousness. So how's your self-doubt feeling now? Because again, based on what I've just said, we can tap that in through the instinct of God and just allow your body now to reprogram to that new definition that replaces self-doubt. We're not fighting self-doubt, we're just reprogramming it. So next we're going to explore part 2, which is the preparation and outlook for this month. So based on that theme and that topic, what can we do to prepare better for this month? And what can we hope to achieve at the end of the month? So actually the preparation came up as rewatching the August 2024 podcast and paying attention to the challenge, the advice, and the next steps part. These are what you will need to be strengthened before you climb the mountain. So the challenge was about clarity, developing mental clarity by releasing your mind from old narratives. So think of it as the way you used to think life worked, cancel that out and allow it to be something different. And I think the card was purple as a frequency because purple aligns you with God consciousness. And we also have had quite a lot of new consciousness since solstice and the Syrian Gateway. So using that to gain more clarity would be a good preparation. So journaling with those energies. The advice was the Temple of Truth, to practice freedom of authentic self-expression. So this takes a little while to kind of get into the groove because you have to now start talking the talk that you're trying to walk. So it's tuning into saying things differently, and AI is great at helping you see different ways to speak. Like I said, it's a tool, not a guru. And because of the integration of the higher self, then it's kind of like another version of you is trying to emerge. So to help it emerge, beginning to speak like it as the bolder version of you will help integrate that. So that involves having to silence the personality. So acknowledge who you were, who you are, and who you are becoming. And then use your voice to speak your truth and share it with other people. So start small. You don't have to go telling your whole story to everybody you meet. Start small, share a little bit with somebody you trust. If they respond well, share a bit more, and then find somebody else. It's not all about a big dump of information. We just want to find the right people to support us when we share our truth until we feel comfortable. And when we feel comfortable, then we can go and sing it from the rooftops. We don't care what other people think because it's more about our internal expression than our external validation. And the next steps from that reading was the kangaroo. And what this is saying basically is that you need to be prepared for big leaps forward quickly. Like I said, 1 step back, or 1 step forward, 2 steps back, 10 steps forward. Now, in order to be able to take that 10 steps forward, you need to be in the right frequency. So it's kind of like you haven't got time to think and plan, you're just jumping. And if what you're seeking is pursuing you, it's done off of your vibrational frequency of what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what you believe. So if you're not already in a good state before you leap, you could end up somewhere negative. Or if you're in a good vibration, end up somewhere that's more positive, that's aligned with gratitude, aligned with goodness and generosity. So gratitude, not resentment, goodness and generosity, not scarcity. The more you can hold this space as your normal state of being, then the more ready you'll be to leap. And that's the clarity as well. The more ready you'll be to leap and take big bounds up the mountain. Because you'll always end up exactly where you're expecting to be, because you don't know physically what it's going to be, but you know energetically what it's meant to feel like when you get there. So the outlook is that the energetic landscape and the stage we're at of human evolution are now supporting you to allow this higher self to be embodied. And it's going to allow you to upgrade your inner compass profoundly. It's going to be so different. So think about, again, when we have these big changes come in, it doesn't just impact us, it impacts people around us who might not recognize us anymore. It impacts how we behave, how our habits, how we walk through life, but also it impacts us in how we make decisions. So may you be inspired and awakened. May you remember, transform, and expand your consciousness so you may experience more enlightenment and live life fully connected to your higher self and all the magic around you. So that's the outcome that we're aiming for. So you can see it's not a solid, you're going to become this. It's more, again, of a way of thinking, being, and operating. So I often talk about this as kind of upgrading your operating system. And over the last 6 months, we've spoken a lot about tuning into victory, pots of gold that are ready to compensate you for your great vision work, divine generosity and blessings are all around you, waiting for you to just be open to receive them. And that's been constant over the last 6 months. So it's all there. It's just which doors have you closed to it that we can now clear away and open so that you can access this. And that's the outcome, is that we've got to another major milestone into becoming more enlightened. Now, if you haven't been doing the work with each of these episodes, then if you go back, each of the challenges to overcome will help you access some of these things so that you kind of think of it like a river. Are you swimming in a river of negativity or a river of positivity? And we need to get out all the poisons and all the blocks and the sewerage out of our river, which is our personality survival techniques, and instead replace them with something more positive. So one of the ways we can do this is we can rewire your river, which is basically your flow of mindset. So you can imagine as you climb your mountain, as you take each step, and each time you have a negative thought or your inner critic starts chattering away, then imagine the God consciousness that's waiting for you at the top of the mountain and ask this divine intelligence to delete this negative thought or habit from my mind, body, and energy field. So delete this negative thought or habit from my mind, body, and energy field. And then just visualize a white light scanning you and removing the negativity out to magnetic plasma balls, just pulling it out from you. So now we need something to replace it. So we say divine intelligence, install. So we're going to go divine intelligence, install thoughts and feelings of clarity, of truth, of goodness, of universal generosity, of peace, of harmony, of love, gratitude, blessings, and the knowledge of how my higher self and the universe are conspiring to support me. Install all of these in my mind, body, and energy field. And then imagine the white light and using the instinct of God, rewiring those things into your being as your new version of yourself. How did that feel? Gentle and peaceful, purifying. Thing is, we're being supported to do things easily if we choose to pick the easy option. We don't have to struggle anymore. So that's the preparation we need to gain clarity, to take big leaps quickly and accurately into the right frequencies before we climb the mountain. And the outcome or the goal of this month is to support the embodiment of your higher self so that you get the best mountain guide ever to climb the mountain. So next we're going to explore part 3, the challenge and the strength for this month. Everybody okay? Ready to move forward? So the challenge is freedom from the personality's thoughts and decisions. That's going to be our challenge, is how do we attain that? How can we break away from the way the personality has taught us to behave, to think, to walk through this life, and all the survival skills it's created as this bandage to help us manage it? So remember, survival skills are typically used when we feel the need to control instead of trust. When we do not believe that we have everything we need in order to deal with the challenges, so we try to avoid them by perfectionism and people-pleasing and self-doubt instead. The thing is, only you can set yourself free from that way of being. Can you surrender your need for control and instead trust the process of the universe? Can you allow your higher self to guide you? So to answer this question, you need to open your heart. You need to become more vulnerable. You have to accept that maybe there's some pain in your life, some trauma underlying those survival skills. You need to explore them. You need to help release them in a safe environment with support, and then you can reprogram them. And as you reprogram them, you'll then gain wings you need to fly higher. Because freedom is often the other side of your limitations and trauma and pain. It's outside of your comfort zone. So I was going to suggest you pull a card to see what your specific aspect of this challenge is. Those on Zoom may have already done it in one of our advanced classes. So you've already got that card. You can just contemplate it now, maybe. So this is kind of one of the things we do is we take the challenge, we take a card, and then we work on it as my advanced group. So given that your card is focus and that we're talking about breaking away from the personality, then you need to ask, what are you meant to focus on? And the focus might be that you're too focused on the pain and the personality, and you need to be more focused on the soul and your aspirations. You can body test to see if that's in the right ballpark. Yeah, you got yes, that good. Yeah, I'd have to find out what the second card question was to make sure I understood what that one's representing. But again, sometimes if we focus on healing, as in we need to be fixed, then that's not an empowering statement. Healing as a general lifestyle can be energetically empowering, but thinking that we're broken and need to be fixed and how quickly you can get through the healing, that tends to make you feel that you're broken, and that's not a good energetic state to be in. It just means that every time you take those kangaroo leaps, you're going to end up in places that prove you're broken. Cool. So the strength then, when you've overcome your fear, when you've overcome that personality restrictions, your strength is flow. And when you connect to the top of the mountain and your higher self and that God consciousness, and I say God consciousness, but it's kind of like an open construct. It could be Christ consciousness, Buddha consciousness, galactic consciousness, earth consciousness, but it's just that more expanded consciousness outside of your human body. That's a bigger idea, a more perfect human kind of vision. But when you can tap into that new wisdom, then what you see is this map of lines and rivers of light. And it's kind of like your life map that you can see from this higher perspective. And you'll be able to sense where your life is going, and then you can just naturally move in that direction. So when you return back down to the mountain, which is when you come back closer to your personality as opposed to your higher self, as you come back down the mountain, you have to be really careful that the personality then doesn't start throwing the poison back in the rivers, because that will force your rivers to change direction and lead you into more difficult terrain. So the kind of things you got to be careful of is wanting to be right. So your higher self says, do this, and you think, no, I know better, and you do something else. Self-criticism, I can't do this, I'm not good enough, that's going to poison the river. Or being judgmental about, oh, I don't think that's worthy of my attention, I want to do something else more important. All these things can impact this very fine map of rivers of light that we can access, and it can interfere with our ease and flow through life. And if you want an easy life, that's how you avoid getting difficulties. So don't put poison in your rivers. So that's the challenge, the battle with your between your personality and your higher self for control, especially when it comes, because this is about themed taking action, and especially imperfect action, and knowing that the decision is yours to make, how you decide. If you can put the higher self in charge, you will have access to a map of your successful pathways. And again, it's your choice, whether you maintain that vibration of those pathways or whether you allow them to become polluted. And you keep the high vibration by managing your emotions. So the final part now is part 4, the advice and next steps for this month. Now, this one is a bit odd, not that it's never odd, they're often odd. But the advice was to research how to upgrade the energy of your home. You need to scan your home and check its energy alignment with the version of you. So as you've changed, the land has changed. You need to now kind of recalibrate the house energy to match up with yours, or your work energy. And it suggested a kind of essence. So again, a frequency kind of alteration as opposed to a physical moving of furniture or a spring clean. Just some sort of frequency, a crystal frequency or a spray which could be aromatherapy or something like that, but it's unique to each person. So you have to tune in and find your own. It could also be something like a sigil or just affirmations of a new narrative. Careful, because affirmations can trigger your personality and actually make things worse. So you have to find the right affirmation that your body's ready and prepared to work towards. But if you can find that unique essence and not go by what others say, you can then change the energy to be more healing and supportive of you. Now, if you're sharing your home with a family, you might need to do this individually for each person and maybe set some individual space for each person to connect to their creativity so you don't interfere with each other's energies. So that's just bringing your frequency of your home up to your frequency. Otherwise, your home can be dragging you down as you're trying to raise your energy up. And I don't think this is going to be a one-off task. I think as we constantly change, we need to think about this as part of our energy awareness, not just our own energy fields, but that of our family, our friends, and also the house. So the next steps then said that the purpose of doing this essence was to align your house to the perfect blueprint of who you're becoming. And this is multi-dimensional work. So I don't think everyone can just do this on their own, but you can at least start learning how to do this. And each of us has, when the 5D grids came into the planet, onto the Earth, when I felt those arriving, each of us had a PowerPoint on the 5D grid that became embodied in the Earth. And what we've been doing is exploring how to take those power centers of Earth energy that is more aligned with our physical being and channeling them into the house. Now, I'm not even sure we could talk about 5D and 3D anymore, because if the 5D grids have landed on Earth, then does 3D even still exist anymore? I'm not so sure. But the 5D grids are most definitely here. Maybe some people attached to the old 3D one, but again, it's a choice if you wish to switch over to these new higher vibrational energies. And then we have to channel them into your house. Now, this is new work because obviously the 5D grids have just landed, and how to channel that energy to amplify the healing energies in your house for your body is work I've not done before. But luckily, we've got somebody in my group who is a geomancer, as you heard her vision earlier. And Marta and I are working together as a collaboration and working out what exactly that's going to look like. And if you guys are interested in doing it for your own home, then send me an email so that we can let you know if and when we work out a workshop. I say if because it might not be ready quite now. Remember, the mountaintop does not always have a destination. But if you want to get onto a wait list, then send an email to whitestarsoulguidance@gmail.com, and then we can just keep you safe so that keep your name safe. So when we do work out what the solution to this problem is, we can then share it with others too. You're welcome, Marta. So that's it. That's the reading. So that's what we're working with this month. So your mantra to align with this month is, and this is regarding taking inspired action, I carry the active intelligence of the galactic light. I carry the active intelligence of the galactic light, the divine attributes, which is your God consciousness, and your instinct of God, and your ancestors. That means it's all inside you at all times. You just have to learn how to access it. My heart and mind, personality and soul are in coherence. And thus I have the courage, strength, and skills to manifest and complete the task I am set. Sound good? I don't blame Jenny's dipping in and out. She's had a hard few days manifesting. Okay, so if you want to really embrace your quantum human abilities, there's two ways we can work together. So I have the Metamorphosis Quantum Human program, and it takes you through 12 3-hour masterclasses, and each is a superstructure that you need to support you in discovering your great vision and healing your blocks on blocking your true essence. It's a subscription base, and it's intensive work with a workbook of probing questions and lots of body testing questions to discover who you are and what you're here to do. And it's also got some like how to work with your higher self, how to get downloads, how to understand energy, and some of these other kind of more spiritual techniques that work really well with the high achiever mindset. So the idea is that by the time you finish this year-long program, you'll be radically different with more peace and grace in your life, and you won't recognize yourself. Now, if you want to do it quicker, then I have a 1-to-1 6-month quantum lightning path version. It goes hand in hand with the superstructures, but it's a more personalized program to break you out of jail, the jail of your imposter self. And that will help you create those radical quantum leaps in your life. So it's a handheld program, and it's quite, again, intensive, but I don't have many spaces because I only have enough energy to do this with a few people at a time. So it's big work, big, huge work. So if you want to expand your light and have somebody hold that space with you until you can hold it on your own, then again, get in touch. So either the membership or the lightning path, email me at whitestarsoulguidance@gmail.com. And I always do an interview. I need to talk to people because this work isn't suitable for everyone. So, but yeah, come chat. At least we can say hello. So how are you guys now reimagining your future based on what we've done? So unfortunately, sorry guys, this is episode 49. And next month will be 50, episode 50. And I feel like my mountain climb on this podcast now could be marked as complete. So on August 18th, it'll be the last live one. I'm probably going to continue these in my membership, but I'm not going to be doing them live on YouTube anymore. I feel like it's been an amazing journey. I didn't know where it was going initially, but now I see that each episode was a stepping stone, not only for you as the listeners, and I loved having all your interaction and feedback because that's helped me, but it's also helped me get to know more aspects of my work and to help me reimagine what a great vision meant and how I was here to help people transform. So the next session is going to be a future visioning episode. And that's about now going beyond our own global aspirations into more of a futuristic, utopian future. So I think that's actually quite a nice one to end on 50. Yeah. I wondered whether to stop and turn them into seasons, but it kind of feels like it was all one. And this 50th one now, I think, will be the end. And I'll still be loading content, but not, these are workshops, these should be done as properly as workshops, not just as a podcast. It's evolved. And that was the whole point. It's meant to evolve. I kept pulling the pieces apart and putting them back together until we've got what we've got now. So as I said, the next one's going to be future visioning. And once we get to the top of that mountain and we meet our God mind, we then see the world differently. So do the work this week, ready for the Aquarius mind to tap into next time. So Aquarius is about technology and seeing the new visions for the future, for the betterment of humanity and the evolution of humanity. So hit the bell if you want to be notified of that one. And then I'll, I guess, drop in from time to time and let you know what I'm working on. But I will be putting some shorter content out, but not these big ones anymore. And do go back and replay the 50 episodes that it's taken us to get here, because I think every time you replay them, you'll hear something different and you'll learn something new. Because there is a possibility that I may be taking them down from here and putting them into another environment, mainly because of AI. AI is scraping up so much information now. I think it's time that this came off the platforms and went into its own container. And it'll be a low price point, so it's not going to be too expensive. But anybody that's been a regular listener or anybody that I see popping up and commenting on my posts or liking my posts, I'll give you a free entry to that. So do catch up while you can. And as usual, do start conversations so we can all evolve together. And thank you for being with me on all these episodes. So look forward to the last one with you guys, because hopefully we're building a community of revolutionary critical thinkers and change makers. Because it's important we don't do this on our own anymore. We need each other. We actually all have clues to give each other. And that triggers synchronicities, which will help our evolution and unlock all of our quantum human amazing abilities. So I'm going to continue with the Quantum Humans in my VIP Q&A session now. But like I said, guys, don't go because I'm coming to join you in a moment. But before I go, let's just check in with the numbers that we use and the progress that we've made. So in the beginning, I asked you some quantum human questions. So the first one was, are my current actions effortlessly and soul aligned with my great vision? So that's number one. Are my current actions effortlessly and soul aligned with my great vision? So put a number down next to the other number you had if you want to go back in your notes. Number 2, do I recognize the right opportunities for my great vision? Well, maybe your great vision, if your number went down, maybe your great vision got bigger. So don't, like I said, you can't measure progress like you used to measure progress. What have you got? Yeah? Has your great vision got bigger? Because if you remove certain fears, your vision gets bigger anyway. If you remove the personality, your vision gets bigger. Yeah, exactly. So it's gone down, but it's gone down because the vision got bigger. So cool, cool. That's perfect. That's a real good example of what I've been talking about all night. So 3, can you take imperfect action for your great vision? So can you take imperfect action for your great vision, number 3? So you guys can let me know if the numbers are changing because I can't scroll that at the moment until we finish. We'll talk about them in the VIP. And then 4, is your approach to life being blocked by your survival skills? 1 to 100. So yours has gone up. So again, it might have gone up because it's the bigger vision has activated your survival skills. And anytime that happens, it's good because it just shows us, it kind of reveals to us that there's a survival skill that needs to be resolved. Cool. Excellent. So we got some changes there. And like I said, all these changes represent progress, just we have to reimagine what that progress is. So thank you, everyone. As we close today, remember, it's time to let go and surrender, but this does not mean giving up. Continue with inspired action until the impossible happens. Start visualizing a different set of success parameters. Uncover your survival techniques and let them be transmuted into more effortless ways to take action. The more you can have a true sense of your abilities, the more you can float with easy come, easy go, and easy come again. When your actions become liberated, you can attract effortlessly what you need when you need it without the need for hoarding. In order to take big leaps forward, you need clarity and understanding of your true essence and vibration to make sure you land through intention and vibration rather than thinking and doing. The energetic landscape and human evolution are now supporting you to allow your higher self to be fully embodied, to have your inner compass profoundly upgraded. Research how to upgrade the energy of your compass of your home and align it to the perfect blueprint of who you are becoming. And just to emphasize that, if you are becoming a butterfly, you live differently than when you were a caterpillar. That's what we're trying to manage through the metamorphosis process. Imagine how hard it is reaching goals or tops of trees as caterpillars versus being able to fly to the top rather than climb one branch at a time. Now imagine your life in that way too, where you become the butterfly, able to fly to the top, but you need to get really good at your consciousness and vibration alignment to allow you to land in the right place. Which would you prefer, the caterpillar or the butterfly? So the universe isn't just supporting you, it's conspiring to help you every single moment. Does that make you feel triumphant in itself? So try and cultivate that feeling all month. And I look forward to experiencing some of your great visions when they become real one day. So somebody's gone, a unicorn butterfly. Yay. Why have a unicorn when you could be a unicorn butterfly? I think a unicorn butterfly might actually be edging towards dragon. Unifly. So thank you all for joining me. Go forth as quantum humans and create the heaven on earth that your soul longs for. The universe is here to support you because when you are successfully using your talents in service of the world, it helps the universe to help the world, and every living thing benefits. So thank you, everyone. And I'm going to say good night if there's no questions. And I'll see you for the final episode 50 next month. All right. Bye, guys.